Hey there. Today we're diving into a really powerful little story, a parable about two soldiers. And believe it or not, this simple tale tackles one of the biggest questions we can ask ourselves. And that question is, what's our most important duty in life? I mean, really, what are we supposed to be focused on? Is it all about securing our own livelihood, making sure we have enough to get by? Or is there something more? Well, this parable we're looking at today has a pretty surprising take on all that. So, let's jump right in. All right, so picture this. It's a time of war, there's a general mobilization, so everyone's being called up. And in this one regiment, we meet our two main characters. On one hand, you've got this well-trained, super conscientious soldier. And on the other, you have a totally raw recruit who, well, is pretty much just looking out for number one. So let's talk about the first guy, the conscientious one. He is laser-focused on his job. He gets it. His primary duty? It's to train and to fight. That's it. He's not stressing about his food, his gear, any of that stuff. Why? Because he knows that's the state's job. He trusts that the system, the king, if you will, is going to take care of it. And what's so fascinating is his whole mindset. I mean, even when he's stuck with boring chores, washing mess tins or prepping food, he doesn't see it as just working for his own dinner. Nope. If you were to ask him what he's doing, he wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm just making my meal." He'd say something like, "I am doing fatigue duty for the state." For him, everything, even the small stuff, serves that higher purpose. Okay, so then we have the other guy, the raw recruit. And he is the total opposite. His entire world revolves around his stomach. He's constantly worried about where his next meal is coming from. And all that important stuff like training for the war, poof, he couldn't care less. He just completely ignores it. And this quote just sums him up perfectly. He basically waves off his most important duties, saying, "That's the state's business. What is it to me?" I mean, think about that. He's so wrapped up in his own survival that he'll literally abandon his post, leave the regiment, and go wander around the market to find food for himself. Just wow. So there you have it. Two soldiers, two totally different ways of looking at the exact same situation. One's all about duty and trust, and the other's driven by self-interest and, frankly, a lot of anxiety. Let's really put them side by side and see the difference. Yeah, the contrast is just, it couldn't be sharper, right? On one side, the conscientious soldier is focused on his actual job, training, fighting. He trusts the king to handle the supplies. But the raw recruit, his focus is entirely on his rations. He blows off his duty and only thinks about his own immediate needs. It really boils down to this. One serves the state, and the other just serves his own stomach. Okay, so by now you've probably figured it out. This isn't really just a story about two soldiers in a war. Is it? It's a parable. It's an allegory for, well, for us, for our own lives. So let's start cracking the code and figure out what this all really means.
Think of this table as a Rosetta Stone for the whole story. The turbulent war they're in, that's this stormy, chaotic life we all live. The king, that represents the true provider, the source of everything. The soldier's training and instruction, that's a stand-in for worship and prayer. And those rations and provisions the recruit is so obsessed with, yeah, that's our sustenance, our livelihood.
So what this all points to is a really crucial idea. There are two very distinct duties at play here. The king's duty, the provider's duty, is to give life and to sustain it. And our duty? Well, our duty is to worship the giver of that life and to trust in him. See how it separates those two things? The responsibility for our sustenance isn't actually on our shoulders.
Now this leads to a pretty wild, almost paradoxical idea. If the provider is the one who handles our sustenance, then how do we actually get it? The argument this story makes is going to sound really strange at first. It claims it has nothing to do with power or our own strength.
And check out this quote from the source material. It says, "The most impotent and stupid animals are the best nourished." Whoa. I mean, that's designed to stop you in your tracks, right? It's completely flipping our usual way of thinking on its head. It's suggesting that maybe helplessness, not strength, is actually the key to being provided for. And the text actually gives us some proof from nature to back this wild idea up. Just think about it for a second. You've got fish, which seem kind of simple, yet they're often better nourished than a super clever fox. Or what about helpless infants? They get the absolute best, most perfect food, way better than what some powerful wild beast manages to hunt down. Even trees, they're just standing there, they can't move, yet they're sustained better than animals that are constantly running around looking for their next meal. So the conclusion here is that real legitimate sustenance, it doesn't come from our own power and will. It comes through a state of, well, what the text calls impotence and helplessness, another way of saying trust and dependence.
And that right there, that is the mindset of our conscientious soldier. And it's a direct challenge to that anxious, I gotta do it all myself attitude of the raw recruit.
All right, so this all brings us to the final and maybe the most important takeaway. This story isn't just a cool little tale. It's actually laying out a very direct, very personal choice for every single one of us about how we're going to live our lives.
The parable basically says there are two ways to live. Path 1, you make this world, this life the main goal. You act like the raw recruit, totally obsessed with your rations. The result? You become like a soldier of the lowest sparrow, just constantly scrambling. But then there's path 2. You make the hereafter your main goal. You act like the conscientious soldier, focused on your real duty. And the result of that? You become like a lofty commander and an honored guest.
And so the story leaves us with this one final, really powerful question to think about. Which soldier are you? Are you the conscientious one, focused on your true duty and trusting that your needs will be met? Or are you the raw recruit, always anxious, abandoning your real purpose to chase after your own livelihood? It really all comes down to this. What is the true aim of your life?